welcome to the Spring Equinox Inspiration Summit. Today we have Whitney Walker. Whitney is a licensed marriage and family therapist living in Northern California, where she was born and raised. In addition to talk therapy, Whitney works as a recovery coach and a spiritual guide. She strives to enable people to see their own unique abilities and intrinsic value in order to create a space of empowerment and positive self regard. In the past year, Whitney has opened her own private practice in the California Bay Area and has begun to speak more openly on her ideas about the return of the divine feminine to our world and how it can begin to change the experience of life on this planet. These ideas form the concept of Woman Waken, her website and passion project. Welcome, Whitney. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's so
Well,
great to be here.
let's just dive in and talk about the divine feminine and what that means and your message around that.
Yeah. So, the idea of the divine feminine is truly about a reintroduction of balance and harmony that is absent. It's about bringing forth the truth. That's a big part of the divine feminine is it's a true expression, right? So, that which is feminine tends to be very transparent, very open, very free flowing because it's not so concerned with the masculine traits, which are more about growth and production, innovation, which has to be very concise and clear. And that's important. However, it doesn't leave much room for free flowing expression and just being and for all truth to be seen. And that is such a huge part of the divine feminine because what's truly come to happen for us right now in the world is that we often don't feel safe sharing our truth, even with ourselves, let alone with one another. And therefore, we live in a lot of lies. And when we live within lies, we can't truly feel safe or comfortable being ourselves. So we can't be ourselves with others, but we also don't really feel very comfortable with ourselves because we don't know if it's safe to be who we are. So, with the absence of that divine feminine, we get what we have now, which is resorting to a lot of things that cause a lot of disease and disorders and dysfunction. When that divine feminine returns, we get to celebrate exactly who we are. And we get to have that balance and harmony come back into our world where we really get to tap into who we are and our gifts and not feel afraid of that, not feel that we have to adhere to what already is or what we're supposed to do. We just get to be what we are. And the divine feminine is, it's allowing for that. It's about showing that to the world that who we are exactly as we are is okay and actually is wonderful and magnificent.
Okay, thank you. So you've been working as a psychologist. So I don't, how did do you incorporate this into the work you're doing, or how did you get to this understanding around the divine feminine?
Yeah. So I incorporate it subtly, just the general concepts of self-acceptance, unconditional self-regard, right? Which is so important to having that internal peace and functionality. Because when people aren't able to accept themselves as they are, when they're not able to have that harmony and alignment within, they're going to seek outside of themselves a way to feel better, a way to feel more comfortable because they're not very comfortable with themselves when they're not able to accept themselves. So I think that, that concept of divine feminine, I didn't call it that at first. It was just, my early days of doing therapy, I just found myself just coming back to that concept of unconditional self-regard and self-acceptance and self-embrace. And then the more I sort of entered into my spiritual work and my spiritual journey, then I started hearing about the divine feminine. I said, oh, that's it. That's the thing that's missing. That's that essence that I keep wanting to sort of call forth in people. And of course, it was my intuition, my instinct that was wanting to bring that forth. And so now it is what I do. I don't always use that term with clients. However, when I am doing my more spiritual based work, that is the whole essence of it, is how do we bring forward that divine feminine within us? And of course, it's within everybody. It's not limited to women, right? Males have those essences. They also, there's a divine masculine as well, too. That's important to bring forward. So on both ends, it's really about bringing forth your true self, letting that true light, that true essence shine, for all individuals.
So maybe
And
take us through an example of a client you've worked with recently that feels maybe a particular one that lots of us could maybe relate to, like someone who's going through could be shame or some aspect of herself that she doesn't accept or feeling less than, feeling stuck. Maybe any one of those scenarios and how you might help them and work with them so that we could get ideas to implement for ourselves.
yeah, absolutely. So I specialize in addiction and eating disorders. And I have a couple female eating disorder clients right now. And the divine feminine is huge in that because, my belief is that at the essence of an eating disorder is a fundamental rejection of the self. It's that disapproval of the self. And because it's within, we can't just be who we are. We feel like we need to do something to prove, to really exert it. And there's something about restricting and being very rigid with ourselves that in a way feels like, you know, do you see what I'm, it's like, do you see me? I can show you how strong I am. Again, it's trying to prove something. And that gets exhausting. And it also can be very detrimental to our health because we decide that proving is more important than our well-being. So what I do in that work, I have a current client who's been really struggling with that, because it is addictive, that feeling of power when you can really be, very disciplined and you can really, you know, change how you look and how you feel. And that feels very powerful. But it's exhausting and you get caught in it just like any addiction. First it seems to serve you, but then you serve the addiction, you get stuck. So I work with them to release that, the sort of constraints that have been built around us when we enter into an eating disorder. And the only way to break those changes is through love, is through self-acceptance, self-compassion, recognize that we have two paths we can walk. It can be down towards the addiction or disorder, towards conditionality, because conditionality says, if I can be, lose this much weight or do this, then I'm good. Then I'm good. And so we get stuck in that reward cycle. But then the other path is unconditionality, which says, just as I am is okay. And I can love myself the same way I might love my best friend or a child. So I start to work with somebody and let them see that every choice we make every day is either down a conditional or unconditional path, and help them to see that they can have that acceptance and that embrace of themselves, that sense of peace, that it's there for them if they're willing to let go of that addiction to that reinforced sense of feeling worthy because they did something, and instead start to see they don't have to do anything to have their worth.
Yeah, I having struggled with eating disorders in my younger years, I completely resonate with that. I know exactly what you mean. I wish I knew how to have self-love and accept myself back in that day. That's
Yeah.
probably what's informed me to do the work I do as well. A lot of that experience for sure. So, is there perhaps share a practice that the audience here could take home with them to expand their anything on the healing field, perhaps the divine feminine within a side of ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll give two little ones. So one, as we want to work towards self-love because, if we think about our gifts, they've really been clouded in a lot of ways because we do have so many conditionalities. We think, oh, well, I have to be this and I have to hide who I really am. The more that we love ourselves, the more that begins to open. We clear away the residue and our true light starts to shine. In order to do that, we have to start practicing little acts of love, little acts of adoring ourselves and releasing any of those negative comments or, just really self-defeating thoughts. Um, so it's starting to notice those thoughts. And when we do have a criticism, think about if you would say that to a good friend. And if you wouldn't, then see if you can not say it to yourself anymore. And think of a thought or a phrase that you'd like to say that is in kindness towards yourself, right?
I
So
like
start
that
to
one.
talk to yourself like your
Yeah.
own best friend, and because you'll be amazed at how different you start to feel. And then as far as opening ourselves to our divine feminine, a big part of that is, as I said, truth. And another word for personal truth is sovereignty. And we can tap into our sovereignty by looking at what we know. The things that we know are our deep wisdom, right? It's our truth within us. that no one has to tell us, no one has to explain it. We just know. And when we do that, we're giving ourselves permission to say, I am wise. I'm wise. I have a knowing. I have gifts to share. I don't have to look outside of me for somebody to tell me what's right to think or to feel or believe in. I can look within and say, I know this to be true. Even if nothing in my world reflects it, I know it. And the more that women or anyone starts to do it, but women in particular, because there is a lack of our presence in the general world and the way that we conduct ourselves in the world, the more that we begin to share our knowing about what might be unseen, we can start to transform the world, because we begin to introduce and create a new reality based on a knowing that isn't we haven't spoken of yet, we haven't brought forward. So I encourage all women to see, what is your own personal truth? What is something that maybe no one else has said, but you just know, and you want to bring that out and speak it and bring it forward?
Hmm. That's a good question for us all to reflect on right now. Just what is your personal truth? What is your personal truth in this moment? I actually have my that own practice that I I work as an intuitive coach, so I give my clients very simple instructions such as that, to just start your morning, put your hand on your heart, and just ask, what is your personal truth for right now, for the day? What do you need to know? That's a good place to start. And then the first exercise you gave, I also resonate with that and do something similar with my clients, where the question I put out there is, what would somebody who loves themselves do? We're so unaware of that self-talk that goes on in the backdrop of our mind. We don't even realize that we're being mean to ourselves, that we're being cruel by like that little voice that says, you did it again. Oh, you made a mistake. You're running late. You're running late. You're putting that pressure. You're doing it again, basically giving you the belief that something's wrong with you. You're not doing it again. And so that's all self-hating, basically. So we need to learn to reverse those thought processes, stop them on the spot, and convert them to the positive. And that's the first step towards loving yourself, is thinking something a little bit more positive than the normal monkey mind of the brain. So I love those exercises. Thank you.
Exactly. You're welcome.
So we have just a few more minutes. I'm going to just leave it to you to share any wisdoms that you'd like to share with the audience.
Oh, thank you. I would like to share a little bit about Women Waken, which is the website I created and the vision that I have in beginning to draw women together with this concept of tapping into our sovereign truth and coming from love. A phrase that I have a vision for is using the law of love in our world now, rather than maybe the law of power, which is what I feel we sort of operate from now. And that starts with people deciding that there is something much greater than the power of might and creation. It is the power of love. There's nothing more powerful than that. So, what I'm hoping to do through Women Awaken is to draw people together and sort of be a harbor for all these boats to come together. Everyone who also has this similar vision to really come and combine and share their unique light that together creates this beautiful mosaic that just lights up and creates this new experience and this new picture. Um, and so within that, it's broken down into, women sharing their resources, sharing their truth with each other. I run women groups, and in that space, it's a safe container for women to speak openly and honestly about who they are and what they do and what their truth is. And then also on the site, they can share about their gifts, and they can find other ways for them to find ways to do their healing that they still need to do. So it's sort of an exchange of different gifts and different healings and different offerings. And then also a place to, really find some guidance for those who don't maybe haven't even gotten started. But then also it's for anyone else to kind of jump in who's curious about the divine feminine and wants to kind of see it in action. They want to kind of dive in there and see, is this the way the world could be? Could it be a more loving place? Could it be a place of truth? Could it be a place that's actually functional where people can live a healthy and prosperous? All of us can be healthy and prosperous, not just some of us. So that's really the space I'm wanting to create and invite your viewers to.
And is that free to join that group, or is there a membership?
Yeah, there'll be a membership. There's a membership. So, but there, you can definitely jump on and check it out. But when you want to get engaged, you get a subscription.
All the free resources or the included resources. That's awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to hear about your free gift you have for
So
everybody?
my free gift that I'd love to offer anybody is a tarot reading. I'm a tarot reader. That was my first little gift that came through. I was gifted a deck in 2020 on the new year, and I started to play with the cards, and that's when I first began to see that I actually have some gifts in me too. I know a lot of us think, oh, that's not me. I don't have any of those abilities, that intuition. And so tarot for me was the first thing that really was that catalyst. So I love doing readings, and the reading I want to offer is it's a 5 card draw, and what it is it is a compass. It shows your north, your south, your east, and your west, and where it's going to guide you. So it kind of tells you the forces that are wanting to come through and what your work is right now. What energies are in your 4 corners, which can be helpful in kind of finding that truth and what might be your pull that you might not be able to kind of check in with, because the cards always have this magical way of showing you that the energies that are kind of hidden or maybe suppressed a little bit. So that's
I
the gift
love
I'd
that.
love to
I
give.
want a reading. That sounds
Oh, you'll get
amazing.
one. I'd love to do one for you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. We've so enjoyed having you. Did we cover everything? Or
Yep,
did
we got it. Thank you so much for
Okay.
having me. And
Wonderful.
thank you for having this event and this conference. What a beautiful thing. I appreciate you very much.
More feminine sovereignty. I'm all for that.
Yes.
All in support of that.
Yes, we're all part of it.